Well, welcome everyone. I am Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, known as Dr. Money. Welcome to another episode of Naked with Dr. Money. Today, we were scheduled to have a very exciting conversation with an herbalist talking about his particular products, as well as his healing and all of those things. And I don't know what happened, but I decided I had a backup plan in terms of a fill in because we've been going through the particular conversations around not only mindset, but really about people's wellness conditions. So, if this is your first time joining the vlog, Naked with Dr. Money, this is where each week I have a guest and we talk about mindset. We talk about mindset from the standpoint of when the guest first realized that they had a mindset, if they believe their mindset is the result of their personal nature, how they were nurtured, or a little bit of both. After we talk about mindset, we contemplate how mindset contributes to your various motivations, the actions that you're motivated to take, uh, being informed by your mindset. And then what are the things that typically manifest as a result of taking those particular actions? So over the weekend, I was having this conversation with my son, Sterling, who is both an artist, music producer, talent, but also a fitness professional. And he's just launched and developed his own brand, Energize X, where he provides personal guided training for individuals, as well as is launching his virtual presentation in addition to the group sessions that he offers. So he and I have been spending our Sundays together for about an hour or two each Sunday because we're working on both a book, but it's also a space that we hold so that we can talk about our respective, entrepreneurial journeys and our opportunities for collaboration. Because we've transitioned into the spring months where people are usually excited and eager to get outside, we decided that we would change our Sunday session and take opportunity to have that be a recorded virtual training session. So last Sunday, he introduced me to our first such virtual training session, which went phenomenally well. I will say, I was feeling a little sluggish. The weather had done a surprise change on me. So I went from being excited about getting outside to finding that we had another cold storm that came over and cooled down the environment. So then I wasn't as eager to go outside. And I was talking to him about just how even with he's dealing with new clients, and he was saying how he had a client that was just really struggling to maintain her workout. And I was saying how, yeah, usually during the cooler months of the year, especially if I'm in the US, it's such a struggle. And this is where my mindset plays such a critical part with my being able to actually not only get the workout in, but just really be motivated, right? And so, what I said I have to do is I literally have to focus on the outcomes because typically I'm not interested in getting up when it's cold out and going to the gym super early. It's like, no, that's not really what I want to do. But what I noticed is that after I've gone to the gym or after I've done my workout or after I've done my grounding or whatever I'm going to do, I always feel better. And so one way that I psych myself up to get it done is not to focus on the start, but instead to focus on the finish, the outcome, right? Focus on the pleasure that I'm going to have at the end as a way of giving me the ability to use mind over matter to overcome the discomfort, the pain that I must endure in the beginning, right? Well, that is a perfect example of why this topic around mindset remains so critical, because think about this: how you think about and how you frame in your mind whatever it is, your daily intentions, what you expect to realize and experience along a daily journey, all begins with that frame of reference that you utilize, that mindset that determines for you what your beliefs are about a particular situation, a particular set of behaviors, a particular set of actions. And so, if those influences that are dominant are contrary to producing the desired outcomes, then you can see where oftentimes there's a saying that you're in your own way. Truthfully, most people hate to own that part. But yeah, you're in your own way. How you think about it all has everything to do with how it all evolves, right? But anyway, so today, again, we were going to talk about healing in the garden. And I had been sharing with someone, I had a most fabulous, rich conversation yesterday with one of my cousins. And I love when I get a chance to speak with my cousin. She's one of my special treasures. You know, it's amazing. I say, you don't know how you'll interact with different family members or who takes an interest in you. And I just remember, for example, when I went to elementary school, a cousin who was really like my protector when I started kindergarten. She was already in either the fifth or sixth grade, and she just made my entry into elementary school such a guided experience, because she was known to be a person that didn't take much mess. So having that older cousin look out was such a great treat. This other cousin was my cousin that was assigned to be the babysitter. So she was my babysitter. And what's really interesting is I discovered over the years that she genuinely took that to heart, because, you would think that maybe your parents put you in the role of being the babysitter, but she has hung in there. And she, to this day, if I tell her that something is going on, man, she's like ready to shake that person up, just like my mom would have if she was still alive on this side, able to be support. So it's such a treat to have family relationships that are just so loving and rich. I just felt so fulfilled and nurtured. After having this conversation, we laughed and she was just telling me about what's going on. And so that's really what this is all about. And so I reminded her, because she was asking, of course, how my son Sterling is doing. And I was giving the update and I was saying, oh my gosh, my mom has to be smiling on the other side, because here it was. She made one decision. So here we go. Mindset. She made a decision that at the time would have been considered maybe a little bit more controversial in her family. But she felt like she could do it because she was going to be changing environments. And so when we were 9, she bought our house. And we were going to be, we moved into this new house. And so we had to start with everything. So I remember going shopping with my mom, buying all of our initial plates, our silverware. I was telling someone the other day that I was just in Silicon Valley a few weeks back, and I said, Silicon Valley has become this tech hub. I was in the Bay Area. I grew up in the Bay Area. I was in Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley. In fact, a big part of San Jose was most famous for the flea market. And so my mom furnished our house with furniture that she purchased from the San Jose flea market. So I remember, many treks to the San Jose flea market. It's also part of the reason that I don't drink beer, because I was with my mom at the flea market one time and had a case of hiccups, and she happened to be walking drinking a beer, and so she decides to give me a sip, and it was the worst sip I'd ever had in life. So she definitely made sure I never wanted beer again, and to this day that has been the only real sip. Well, I take it back. My son tried to introduce me to something that's a little bit more palatable these days. But anyway, I digress. So, bottom line, this idea of mindset. But one of the key decisions that she made at that time was that she had made an observation that a lot of what she felt were, lifestyle conditions, family, chronic conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, and some of these things were actually things that could be mitigated by awareness. And so she decided at 9, when she bought this house, my elementary school had a book sale. So she attended and she bought 2 books. One book was a soul food cookbook, but the book that really changed her vision and my life and set an intention was she bought a book called Back to Eden. Some of you may or may not know about Back to Eden. I have the original book. Look, the back mixing. I've been hanging on to this book. This is, one of my treasures. And this is what has been the framework for why I'm in the wellness business, in the sense of the operating model. And I realize that a lot of people are very confused about what my business really is. And I said, of course, right? Because people look at you through the lens of their experiences. So, for those of you who've heard me talk about wellness resorts and you go, well, a wellness retreat? And it's like, no, it's wellness resorts. So, I know you might be familiar. You've heard of people buying homes that may be distressed or foreclosures or in new developing communities, and they buy a house and then they invest money into rehabbing that house, and then they either sell that house, they rent that house, they convert that house to an Airbnb unit. Yes, understand that, right? That's become a business for people. Well, I'm a real estate developer, and I look at real estate and land and opportunity from a standpoint of what is its highest and best use, right? And over the course of our lives, not only do we age, but real estate ages. So in some cases, the real estate becomes obsolete in its current use. In this case, the properties that I'm acquiring are not obsolete. I'm just seeing an opportunity to acquire existing hotels and convert them to a business model that I see as a more profitable, a higher and better use of those particular assets. So there's a real estate that's part of my business. In addition to that, I'm in the wellness space. So just like you see brands, you've heard of W Hotel, Marriott Hotel, Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Those are brands that have an operational model. And that operational model is what is layered on top of the hotel property. The Ritz-Carlton does not own any hotel assets. So they don't own the real estate. They just are flagged to deliver the operational model. And that's how that brand makes money. So for those of you who've been trying to figure it out, hopefully that's the 5-year-old version so that I can make it clear and plain and simple. So I'm both a real estate developer that has a vision for acquiring underperforming assets in my particular asset classes where I have a deep expertise, as well as having been a strategist and branding expert before I segued into my real estate career, where I've been the last 2 decades of my professional career. I created a brand that made sense, but also that was very personal to me based on the intention that my mother set very early along my journey. And so I wanted to share because someone was asking me, well, what does that mean, or why is Back to Eden such an important um, pillar or memory along your journey? So the book says, Back to Eden, the classic guide to herbal medicine, natural foods, and home remedies. But listen to this. This book was first published back in 1939. 1939. So I'm going to just share with you a few nuggets from the forward, just so that you can take it into perspective of what it is I'm seeing, right? So it begins, it's with godly fear and much humility that I undertake the task of writing this book, as I am in no sense of the word a writer. I'm sending forth this book for the purpose of helping humanity and giving courage to those who only have thought their cases hopeless. My prayer is that God may make this book a blessing to many. I wish to present the truth in a practical manner to help the human family, and to prevent my fellow men from becoming slaves to erroneous ideas, so that mothers and fathers may better care for their families. This book contains tried, safe, inexpensive remedies for the prevention of disease and sickness, remedies which are the result of my own practical experience of nearly 40 years. Many recipes are given herein that are not found elsewhere. They are inexpensive and can be made in any home. They contain the elements the system requires, are very palatable when properly prepared. Millions today who have little food would better be able to keep body and soul together if they knew which foods to eat that really sustain life. There's been a growing demand for many years for practical knowledge of non poisonous herbs. Actual facts and the true healing art is given in this book, as handed down by physicians from Hippocrates, who was called the father of medical literature until 1541, when Hohenian started the practice of using chemicals and the idea that the human body could be purified chemically, as were the metals at Tyrol, uh, where we worked after giving up his medical profession. So, anyway, what we're talking about here is, he'll go on into great detail. I'm going to, like I said, just jump around and grab a few different things. But many of the people, he says, who violate the laws of health are ignorant of the relation of the laws of living, eating, drinking, and working to their health. Think about this. Many who violate the laws of health are ignorant of the relation of the laws of living, eating, drinking, and working to their health. Think about this. Until they have some kind of sickness or illness, they do not realize that their condition is caused by violating the laws of nature and health. If they would resort to simple means and follow simple laws of health that they have been neglecting, proper diet, use of pure water, fresh air, sunshine, rest, and nature's remedies, herbs, etc., nature would restore the body to its original health. Had nature been supplied with them all the time, the body will always be in good condition. Think about this, guys. The things that you're neglecting: proper diet, use of pure water, fresh air, sunshine, rest, and nature's remedies, herbs, etc. Nature would restore the body to its original health. And that's what we do. So when we think about it, we at our wellness resorts, we focus on mind, body, and soul wellness and healing. Not because it's such a far-fetched idea, but because actually it's a proven foundation on what contributes to long life. It says, God has provided a remedy for every disease that might affect us. Satan cannot afflict anyone with any disease for which God has not provided a remedy. Our Creator foresaw the wretched condition of mankind in these days and made provision in nature for all the ills of man. If our scientists and medical colleges would put forth the same effort in finding the virtues of the true remedies as found in nature for the use of the human race, then poisonous drugs and chemicals would be eliminated and sickness would be rare indeed. If they would make use only of these remedies that God has given for the service of man, it would bring an untold blessing to the world. In these distressing days, the use of a simple natural diet would prevent much suffering and save money. The most important subject for people to study should be, how can we live our allotted time without suffering? God has surely made this possible. So here's the thing. If you have a mindset where you believe that life with wellness without suffering is possible, then you're going to seek those types of solutions and those types of outcomes, right? You're going to look for evidence that they exist. This is where, if many of you heard the story, I was surprised. I was asking someone the other day if they had heard it, and she had not heard anything about it, but about the blue zones. There was a documentary done researching the blue zones, where the researchers visited these various regions of the world where people seem to have super long life, super centurions, and often are not plagued with some of what have become chronic conditions that we see just growing and expanding in rapid numbers. And so the scientists researched not only what the living conditions, the mindset, what type of nutritional practices, what the lifestyle practices are of these often super centurions, and how that has contributed to their longevity, and then said, hey, here is an opportunity for those of us who would want to know the keys. Well, here are some examples by studying the success of these populations. Well, that's what we've been doing along our wellness journey. I'm on this journey in creating these wellness resorts with my business partner and co-founder, Dr. Aubrey Oliver, who happens to be a functional medicine physician. He too was introduced to this book, Back to Eden, early in his journey by his mother as well. Like they said, a fast fact that we happen to share. But because of that, that has informed our respective mindsets and journey. Remember, guys, I said this book was first published in 1939. So if you take into consideration the passages that I've shared, this was written before 1939 when the original text was published. And so, revolutionizing the common manner of living, eating, and drinking, and you will have a happier and healthier people. And we talk about this because what you don't often take into consideration, that there is a physical and there is a chemical reaction to all of the things, which is why I begin with mindset. If it is you are stressed, or distressed by a particular situation, your brain tends to release excess cortisol. Cortisol is part of that fight or flight chemical that's aimed to give your body extra strength when you find yourself in a critical situation where you need to rely upon excess strength. This is those cases where you see a tragic accident, a car, a big thing has fallen on somebody, and then you see someone who shouldn't have the strength, but somehow or another they're able to tap into this reservoir and lift a vehicle that under normal circumstances you go, there's no way possible. Well, those are the additional chemicals that have been released that allows you to gain this strength. Now, it's necessary in a fight or flight situation. The problem is we are activating those same type of cellular activities for things that are not critical. And so there is still a chemical release that's happening internally. And oftentimes, when you have an excess of those releases internally, then they find them ways into your cells. I was telling someone the other day that was discussing, their weight loss. And I said, part of the weight that you have is really inflammation in your tissues and inflammation in your cells. And that is because your body has toxins that have not been able to properly be released. So they found a home. And typically, what happens is if those toxins find a home, then they usually recruit other cells, parasites that feed off of those particular poisons. And then they begin to create either the atrophy of cells, which then sends an alert to your body that something's dying. So then that's where you begin to see the cancer show up. Cancer cells are meant to help your body decompose. When it is you pass on. But if your cancer cells are activated while you're living, what that means is that some cells, some organs are under stress and are sending a signal that they're dying. And so what you want to do is you don't want to continue to poison and kill those cells. You want to, one, release cells that have not been able to be digested and released through other means. This is why it's so essential to have a detox plan. You have to detox from situations, so you must use natural remedies to assist your body in releasing toxins when you have an abundance of different toxins. So you can also begin to nurture those cells. And sometimes the reason that you're unable to nurture your cells is that the toxins have blocked your cells from receiving that nurturing. And so consequently, you're just recircling toxins. And once those toxins enter your bloodstream, then they're traveling throughout your body to your various organs. And that then is what begins to contribute to and create illness, right? Disease. So oftentimes it all began with a thought process, with a traumatic emotional experience, being that something upset you, being that you had some type of tragic, accident or incident. There's some kind of trauma that you've experienced. And that trauma, if it didn't cause physical injury to your body, sometimes it's the chemical injury, the internal injury that is overlooked, that is ignored, that is forgotten, that also needs to be explored. And you can be assisted with ways to overcome those particular ailments. So, anyway, over our journey, this Back to Eden really has a lot of tools and it's foundational. There's another book that my mother also had called Holistic Health. I will share an excerpt from Holistic Health during our next session. As usual, you know, having a quick vlog, sharing information, it begins and it ends so quickly. I see that I'm already at the conclusion of our time. What I'd like to say is if you join me today for your first time, please tune in. I'm live every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. This is where Naked with Dr. Money exists. And our focus is on me sharing a little bit of my journey. I'm the CEO of ZenoVerse Wellness Group. And the goal is to really share information around thought leadership. So, how you can help your mind, your body, and your soul heal and continue on that wellness journey, which we believe is a journey towards full life being 120 years and beyond. We want to see you all successfully succeed to accomplish full life in your happiest and healthiest state. How about that? Your happiest and healthiest state. So, anyway, if you want to hear some more of my tips, join me. I usually have exciting guests, and we talk about mindset, motivations, and manifestations. So, until next Wednesday at noon Pacific, be well, and I'll see you then.